Lano has had in the P3 category, but we are ready to go racing. Pace car heads to pit lane. Prototypes will lead this party down to the green. And remember, in IMSA competition, in all forms of IMSA competition, you must remain in column formation until past the start-finish line. There is the green flag, it waves. We are racing here at VIR. And you see Christensen dropping in line behind Catalano, his teammate, as they head down to turn one. And you think about the nerves going through that young man as he makes his first start here in America. Field cleanly through 1 and 2.
Battle is in the GTDX category, side-by-side racing here with Samantha Tan and Vin Barletta battling it out for third and for fourth in that class. Looks like they got that nice and settled. At the front of the field, though, Walker's been the man in form, as you talk about, coming on strong after scoring next to no points in the season opener. He's not been off the podium since, and he's making a run for a title here, Brian, late in the year.
This championship in GTDX has been interesting as you watched already the faster GTDX cars trying to find a way past the slower LMP3 machinery up through the climbing S's.
Wow, frustrating moment here from Adam Adelson. He is the points leader in the class, and he's got all kinds of trouble trying to get through some of the prototype traffic here. He's used to being on the other side of that equation, Brian, as it gets super tight down into Oak Tree. He races in the WeatherTech Championship as well, so he's used to the prototypes coming through, but now the shoe on the other foot, at least here in the early stages of race one.
Well, and Samantha Tan has lost a position as well in her 38 BMW. Meanwhile, up front, welcome to the IMSA VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, Mr. Christensen, because right now, Brian Thien is just behind him in the 77, the red, white, and blue Ligier chassis, beginning to put some pressure on Christensen at the end of lap one.
Yeah, Brian's been quick here this weekend as well, has some experience at this track, finished on the podium in race 2 here a year ago and out to third in the points. And right now, he seems to be pretty comfortable in his Ligier, stalking the purple Duquesne ahead of him. Christensen, the rookie, he's got the position, but he's going to have to fight to hang on to it, it would appear.
Well, it'll be interesting, too, to see once they get back around to traffic, if Venus can stay close to the rear wing of the 31 in front of them, see how they work traffic as they work now through the infield portion of this racetrack, the slower sections where mechanical grip really comes into play. And you see the 6, that bright yellow Turner Motorsports BMW, and a problem there in turn 1 for some of the GSX competitors. It looks like Michael Fitzpatrick, one of those, and that's a hold radiator on his Aston Martin.
Oh boy, that is bad news. Big time damage there. I mean, it might not look like a whole lot, but I promise you that's more than superficial. They're going to have to get to the bottom of that. Tough break for Michael, who had to start at the back, had a penalty for missing the grid. And let's take a look back here, Brian, see what we can make of the contact.
Well, this is, yeah, it's what I thought. There's the contact with the 14. Because the leak was on the left side, you saw some body damage. I was thinking, yeah, I'm thinking that he may have had a problem into turn 1. It's David Hampton aboard the number 14 Porsche. No. Wouldn't mind seeing it one more time. As you look at it, all of a sudden you start picking up different details each time you look at it. It was Hampton out wide, and Fitzpatrick just couldn't keep the car down on the apex, or was it a late move? Hard to tell there, but what was easy to tell, Ryan, was that contact. We talked about it, left front to right rear of the Porsche, and that has done significant damage. Here it is again. Look on the way into the corner. Kind of hard to tell from this shot, but I'm not sure Hampton knows Fitzpatrick is there.
That's a good read on it, I think, Brian. You're right. Really tough. Let's look at it one more time. Slow motion here. Does seem to cut across the nose of the Aston. Did the Aston, could it get backed out? I don't know. Tough call to make there for race control. And they're going to have to make a call because that is currently under review.
Well, I can tell you this too, Ryan. It's one of those things that from our television cameras, this racetrack looks reasonably wide, and it is down the front straightaway, but when you drive down to turn 1, and a problem now for Frank Depew, I wonder how many cars are going to have issues because of the fluid that is down from Fitzpatrick's Aston Martin. He has not come to pit road, and you would think that his crew would have called him in because obviously there is leakage from that radiator and that fluid going down on the racetrack. Let's see what happens to Frank Depew.
Coming up the inside of Bill Kane.
Just couldn't get it wound down.
Yeah, simple as that.
Kane, a great job of reading that and saying, hey, there's a missile coming up the inside of me. I'm going to let it go. Fitzpatrick now to pit lane.
Well, figured that was going to be necessary after you saw the fluid come out. This is a tough break for the 89X team. Of course, Mike Fitzpatrick helps to run that operation, but it doesn't look like race 1 is going to be their day. But I suppose the good news, Brian, is you don't get just one more chance at it here this weekend, but 2 more, with the makeup race still to come at the tail end of the weekend after we had weather intervene at CTMP earlier in the season.
Oh, don't say weather, because we know the kind of weather that we can get here in Virginia, right? But yes, you are exactly right. Fans used to seeing a doubleheader every weekend that VP Racing SportsCar Challenge competes. This weekend, you get 3 because the weather at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park last time out was such that the race needed to be delayed, and then that delay got long enough that it was going to affect border crossings for teams coming back in, where you have to have appointments to get back across the border with all the racing equipment that you've brought over. And so the officials looked at that and wisely said, we are going to need to postpone this, and a problem for the 86, John Hirschberg, and you could kind of see that one coming. There's a lot of debris that's been built up offline from the lengthy WeatherTech practice session that we just had, and Hirschberg gets a little wide, gets into those marbles, and all of a sudden loses grip. Let's see what happens to John here. A little wide, up and out, drops the left sides, and then he is done. It's a tightrope that you're walking. You want to use all the road you can on the way into turn 5 there, but he gets just a little up and out of line, and it just happens that quickly.
Now able to continue on, but that happened right in front of Jake Walker, who, as we've talked about, is trying to mount a challenge for the GTDX title here in 2025. He had a front row seat to that, and I think was quite happy that it cleared off to stage left there and allowed him just to come up through and be able to navigate through that. And now he doesn't have the prototype traffic to contend with, which it did appear might have been holding him up slightly, and Adam Adelson was trying to use that to his advantage to close in, had done so slightly over the previous lap, but now it'll have to be settled at least for until they run into GSX traffic, just based on the raw pace of the 2 cars.
Jake Walker is going to give Adam Adelson a run for that championship, even though he had problems earlier in the year. Let's move to GSX now, where championship leader Kiko Porto in the number 8, that Rafa Racing entry. It is Toyota's 1, 2, and 3 right now, and actually 1, 2, 3, and 4, because Tyler Hoffman up into the 4th position aboard his number 53. But you can see just how close it is. Porto and Porter run with the same Rafa Racing program, and then just behind them, the 76 of Clemens in another Toyota, but out from underneath another awning there in the paddock, that for BSI Racing. And really, Clemens has been on a tear lately. Podiums in his last 5 races, including a win at Mid-Ohio. Didn't start the season well, or he'd be maybe a little closer in the championship. But that driver, that team, you combine them, and they have had some great runs. And right now, Clemens aboard that bright red number 76, beginning to put pressure on Porter just in front.
This is effectively a home race for Steven, too. He's from Greenville, South Carolina. So friends and family, I'm sure, making the trip up to watch him compete here at VIR, and doing a nice job hanging with the 2 Rafa Racing Supras that have been, I think it's safe to say, the class of the GSX class this season. But it does seem like Clemens has been there, nipping at their heels with some frequency recently. Got that win at Mid-Ohio. That was a big deal for him. And here this weekend, showcasing the kind of pace that is going to be required to make a run for, if not a championship. He's 340 points out, but at least trying to close out the season with a couple more wins to see what's next for him in his emerging career.
And like I said, 5 podiums in the last 5 races. So yeah, that team and that driver have gelled. They're getting their heads around this GT4 machinery and doing a great job. But the car right in front is what's been impressive. the driver of that car, I should say, the 68, and that is Ian Porter. If you are a gamer and you would recognize Ian Porter's, what do you want to call it, his screen name? What do you call it? You're more of the gaming generation than I am, Ryan, but a three-time world champion in Call of Duty is Ian Porter, and he has taken that same approach that he had to become a world champion in the gaming platforms into this racing. He's lost 30 or 40 pounds as he came in here. He said, this is what I need to do. This is what I want to do now. I want to be a champion at this level of motorsport and beyond. And he has focused intently on doing what he needs to do to go fast. And he has been impressive this year, Ryan.
He sure has. Only his second year of racing, like you said, coming from such a decorated career in esports, in Call of Duty specifically. Screen name's what I used to call my old AOL Instant Messenger thing. I don't know if that's still what the kids refer to it as, but maybe with it being Call of Duty, we could call it his nom de guerre. Crim 6 is what he competed under. That was his alias, maybe, would be the correct terminology. In any event, you're right. It's been interesting talking to him in the year and a half since he's been racing about how the same approach carries over. The discipline is quite different, but the way that you prepare, the way that you deal with the pressure, that is a constant anytime you're competing at a high level. And he clearly has some talent behind the wheel too, because he was really good last year in Porsche Sprint Challenge, and that has carried over nicely, where he's got a teammate in Kiko Porto that he can compare himself against. And Porto is the kind of guy that has manufacturer's interest at this point. He recently had a test for Lexus, sister brand to Toyota, in their GT3 car. So gives you some idea of the esteem that Kiko Porto has earned with his career in single-seaters and now in sports cars. And Ian Porter's been able to hang with him at times this season with much less experience.
I think he's going to get a draft down into turn one this time. Let's see if he can do anything with it. Of course, Kiko Porto doesn't want to let him by. Right now, he has Porter exactly where he wants him, and that's between himself and Clemens there in second place in the championship, third on the racetrack, and a little push and shove there by Clemens as they head into turn one. This is good stuff, and when you look at the competition between these three drivers right now, you would think that they would have had years of experience at this level of motorsport, and that's just not the case. It's one of the things that I think is so unique and so special about the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. This is where you come on that ladder to move your way up into levels like Michelin Pilot Challenge or the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. That is the ladder system, one of the rungs that has been created here by IMSA, and it is proving its worth.
Interestingly, to your point, none of these three had GT4 experience coming into this season. Porter, as I mentioned, comes from Porsche Sprint Challenge, raced at Cayman there. Clemens has done a couple of years in a similar car in Toyota GR Cup. And then it's a much different background for Kiko Porto, who came up through the open wheel ranks in North America, won a championship, tried to make it to IndyCar, but couldn't quite put things together, and then has since turned his focus to sports car racing and has done a lot racing in things like Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and now doing really, really well here in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge too. So all three relatively light on experience, but clearly racing at an extremely high level and trying to use VP Racing SportsCar Challenge as the launching pad for whatever is next in their respective careers.
I think the other thing important to note is not only is this series rung on the ladder for drivers, it is teams as well. And you look at Rafa Racing, who has a presence all throughout motorsports these days. It's a great place for them to train crew members and engineers and the like. And right now, Porter dropping back just a little bit. Interesting down the front straightaway what happened there. The two separated, and it looked like there was a little bit of, you first, go ahead, I'm not sure what's going on right here, and a little bit of a pause, and that kind of separated Kiko Porto. This is so hard for me to say, right, on a regular basis. Porto from Porter there in second, and kind of built that gap headed into one, but Porto loves it because that kind of separates Clemens and moves him a little further behind.
The ebb and the flow in this battle has been really interesting, especially when you consider it's all the same Toyota GR Supras between the three drivers, but one driver might have a good turn sequence and start to pull a gap. Somebody else might have a bobble and back up, and then the next lap it's all changed around again completely. But not a mistake that I've seen in the time we've been following that battle, which makes it all the more remarkable.
Prototypes already beginning to work through GT traffic. The leader, the overall leader, the leader in the LMP3 category, up through the climbing S's. That bright red number 30, the Duquesne of Catalano, the championship leader in that category, now up into Oak Tree and onto the back straightaway. This team, this driver combination has been so strong from the get-go. When we arrived at Daytona, and we saw Gebhardt last year, and we knew the kind of program they could put forward. And for Valentino Catalano, it has been exactly what he needed in his career. The 19-year-old German has taken to prototype racing here, and this is going to be important. I can't see him not holding on to this championship. He needs to show up at the races and compete and gain points, but he's had such a strong season to this point in time. It's really going to be hard for anybody to catch him. And a lot of that has to do with the number of cars in the class right now. We expect to see growth in this class for sure. Look at this, cutting in and out. Gives you an idea of the speed differential down the front straightaway. But for this young man, being able to claim a championship early in his career, that will help him move forward. And again, it's one of the important points of this championship, a stepping stone in your career.
Yeah, especially if he has aspirations of racing stateside. I mean, he's won a title in LMP3 cars in Europe, did that last year, won the Prototype Cup Germany Championship with this Gebhardt Motorsports team. He's raced in the Asian Le Mans Series, he's raced in the European Le Mans Series. But if you could win a title in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, now all of a sudden the IMSA paddock knows your name. They follow these races too, and this could help to vault him to the next step, whatever that might be. He's kind of reached this LMP3 step, whether that's in Europe or in the States, but looking to make that next transition to the next challenge.
Looks like Ian Porter may have dropped a wheel coming out of Oak Tree. Never lifts, though, I don't think, because he hadn't lost any ground. Let's take a look at the exit. Yeah, just drops it off there and does a really, really good job of just straightening his hands. Stays in the throttle, which is a little risky because that slick Michelin tire on the grass isn't going to give you great grip, but with his hands straight, kind of no harm, no foul. He'll remember that when he gets back to that corner next time. And I don't believe it would be aero wash off of the number 8 in front of him. The car's not really going that fast right there for the aerodynamics to play that large a role. Perhaps just a little bit too much throttle, a little too early, and that created the problem. But I'll tell you what, he got a great run through Hogpen and is right there alongside his teammate when they get to 1. I don't think he has enough to do anything with it, Ryan, but now he's going to try the over and under, and person who likes seeing all this is right there in third, just behind him. That's Clemens.
Yeah, Clemens is trying to see, is this going to open up a chance to go on the attack himself? But the racecraft from Porter, Brian, for a driver of such limited experience. Now, he's done a lot on the sim over the years, and that is one thing that is replicated really nicely, sim to real. The racecraft carries over pretty well. But just remarkable what he's done in a short amount of time, still coming to grips with all of this. Using a lot of curb, though, Brian. I saw that got your attention.
Yeah, it got my attention. And one of the things you see as the leader now, Valentino Catalano, beginning to close in on the lead in GSX, one of the things that I see is a much more stable platform aboard the number 8 for Porto. And for Ian Porter, car sliding around a little bit, and I'm going to say that some of that may be driver-induced. If he's punishing those Michelin tires a little bit more, sliding them a little bit more, the grip's going to begin to go away. And for Porto, he looks like he's on rails right now. This could be a big factor, though, as Catalano catches them. Depends on where he gets them, and is he able to split this battle? We'll know in about 20 seconds or so. But if he splits this battle, if he can get him down the front straightaway, that's great. But if he gets him in there in 1, 2, 3, it could separate this battle and have something to do with the ultimate winner in GSX.
Yeah, we've seen already in this race the LMP3 car coming through have an effect on the GSX class. We saw it open up a moment for Chris Walsh to get by Kane. This looks like a great scenario, though, for this to really not impact the race too much if he can get alongside and make these passes. But actually, that top end speed of the GSX cars is pretty good, and now he'll try the outside, and so will Clemens.
Well, that's interesting because what happened, as Catalano came through, he kept Porto and Porter down on the inside. They couldn't let the car track up, and Stephen Clemens has taken advantage and picked up P2 in GSX.
Well, I misread that. I thought he was going to clear the traffic before turn 1, but that wasn't the case at all. Oh, and a spin further back, the 5 car, that's Rogers, has gone around.
Yeah, Angus Rogers aboard the number 5, the Porsche, a problem. A lot of real estate there, and the good thing is the grass is not wet. Always laugh, Kerrigan Smith, who really heads up this facility as far as making sure it's in tip-top shape every weekend, always sitting in race control. He always laughs and says, there is no uphill grass at Virginia International Raceway, meaning if you go off, especially if the grass is wet, you're going to be on a downhill ride, usually to something solid like a tire wall. And the good thing for Angus Rogers is it's not wet right now. What happens to the 5? That's in hog pen.
I think that was traffic there, right? You had the prototype coming to the inside in hog pen, forced the Porsche out a little bit wide. Rogers drops the wheels in the grass, and around he goes. Simple as that.
One of those things, we were talking about it earlier, how you learn your craft with multi-class racing here. And you called it prototype down to the inside. And it was one of those things that if we had been seeing this at the WeatherTech level, prototype and GT car, the GT car may have gone to the apex and just said, not here, not now. I can't give that to you because I don't have the downforce to run on the outside. Angus Rogers got placed there, and as we've talked about, offline is not necessarily where you want to be here. A lot of marbles collecting, and now Clemens looks to the outside. Is it going to be an over-under in turn 2? Now back to the inside. Does he have enough? I don't think so, Ryan.
Clemens, though, very much knocking on the door, and that car looks really well sorted for him right now. Kiko Porto is going to take all of his veteran wiles to keep the hard-charging Stephen Clemens behind for 23 minutes. That opportunity opened up to get to second when the prototype came through, and don't look now, but here comes Christensen next to take a bite at this GSX traffic, and maybe that's the opportunity that Clemens needs.
You think about a championship, and for Kiko Porto, he's got 300-plus points over Stephen Clemens behind him. So it's one of those things that you look at and you go, how much do I risk to keep him back there if he's got a good car? And now, with Christensen there, he may separate this battle as they head into 11. Christensen doesn't know this track all that well. He doesn't know the traffic, so a little balk there, and it has put Clemens well back off of the rear bumper of Porto, at least for now.
Yeah, that's the give and take of the traffic. Instead of creating an opportunity, it created the gap there, and Clemens now has to dig deep to try and run the leader in the class, Kiko Porto, back down. And you know, one interesting dynamic here, we're well into this season. By this stage, you'd think these racers would know one another pretty well. They know the tendencies of the prototype drivers as they come through, but Christensen is brand new to the championship here this weekend, and that adds that little bit of uncertainty, doesn't it? Not knowing exactly what to expect from the new driver as they approach these kinds of traffic situations together for the first time.
And change roles, change seats for Christensen. He knows the car, he doesn't know the track, and he doesn't know anybody that he's passing out there. So it's one of those deals where if you're in a GT car, you don't know who this guy is that's coming through. And for the driver of that prototype, Christensen, he doesn't know the traffic that he's passing. So it's kind of a big unknown for everybody is Frank Depew with another problem. And you can see slick tires on grass don't work that well.
Yeah, even in the dry, certainly, as you talked about, that's exacerbated if the grass is wet. But yeah, not a lot of grip to be found out there for Frank, who was running 7th in class at the time. And let's see if we can learn what happened. This is at the exit of the roller coaster section into Hog Pen.
just gets up on the apex curb there in the final corner, and the car kind of sits down and compresses hard. As it rebounded, it looked like he lost the rear end a little bit and could never catch it. You can see the downhill slide like we were talking about. Then he tries to go back to the throttle and just doesn't have the car straight enough yet. Still a lot of lateral loads going on there. When he picks up the throttle, Ryan, I think that wheel spin, even with traction control, was just enough to loosen up those rear Michelins once again, and the car goes around.
What the team will be looking very closely at is how much grass ended up on the air intake on the grill front of that car. That's one of the risks when you go off track here at VIR. If you pick up too much of that, it can send the temperature skyrocketing, but actually looks like he probably got away with one there. That could have been a whole lot worse.
Absolutely, and we saw that earlier, and it depends. I think a lot of the time that Frank was off the racetrack was backwards, right? So not that long a drive back to the track either, so good news for him as far as that goes. I was talking about Kerrigan Smith and his entire crew here. They do such a beautiful job of landscaping this facility. That means cutting the grass on a regular basis. But cutting the grass means clippings, because I don't know about you, Ryan, I don't pick up mine in the yard when I mow either. So it's one of those things, you get off here, yeah, you may bale some hay.
Yeah, I don't either, and my yard is not as big as this. This is really interesting, though, as the leader now in GTDX is coming through the traffic, and look who's come back here and caught the lead of the race in GSX again, and that is Clemens in the red Supra. He has run down the leader, Kiko Porto, and very nearly it looked like he was going to have a chance to look up the inside, but elected to wait on that move, take his time, be patient. Still 19 minutes to go, but to my eye, Brian, that red Supra is looking awfully threatening.
Well, I was going to say the exact same thing. I have absolutely no doubt that the fastest GSX car on the racetrack right now is Stephen Clemens aboard that 76. That car looks hooked up. I was talking about Kiko Porto's Supra being on rails and how Ian Porter's had a little more slide to it, and that may have been driver induced. But the car that doesn't really move is the 76. He puts it where he wants it to be. The car doesn't seem to want to track up offline prematurely. It's not like he has to check off the throttle to let cars by or to get the car back online. He can pretty much place it where he wants to, and now he's going to try to go with Adam Adelson. Brilliant by Clemens here. Can he make it work? Not now, but oh, look at that. Porto, yes, Porto. There I go again. Out in the gray and lost some ground. I need them to change names, Ryan. Porter and Porto, it's just too close.
Kiko and Ian from
there
here on
you go.
out. How's that work for you?
There you go.
Kiko leads this race, and you're right, that almost was the opportunity that Clements needed. This is a driver who honed his craft in single-meg racing, Toyota GR Cup competition, where you're constantly in a battle, constantly in traffic, and he's using all of those lessons learned with his racecraft right now, even in a different format with the GT4 car and in multi-class racing.
Beautiful, absolutely well played. Can he stay there? He is right now. They'll have to make sure there's room at the exit of this corner. There is. That's 3 corners we've been through side by side. Make it 4. Can we make it 5? It's like we're in a bidding war, and off the curb, he almost gets into the side of Ian, or Kiko. See, I can't even get that right. That was beautiful and well played, and I think the great thing about it for Stephen Clemens, Ryan, is that even though the job didn't get done right there, he has made a statement to Kiko Porto of, I got your number and I've got the better car. Put a wheel wrong and I'm through.
Yeah, you could almost feel Kiko Porto's stomach drop. He realizes he's in for a real challenge here with 16 and a half minutes to go in the race. Clemens looks like he's got the car to beat right now, and it's just a matter of can he find a way by the number 8 machine. This is awesome stuff, though, for Clemens, who doesn't have a karting background. His first time on track was a track day that he got for his 17th birthday. Did that in the Subaru BRZ and just fell in love with the sport. And look what he's doing here, putting real pressure on an up-and-coming star like Kiko Porto.
He played that perfectly down in one, kept Porto to the inside, was able to do the over and under, got position, and then incredible, respectful racing right here. This is how it's supposed to be. He gets up on the curb a little bit, and he has to check out because he knows The car's going to bounce when he comes off, and he can't afford to get into the side of the 8 in front of him. And now he is right back there, and we may see the same thing again.
Down now to the outside again. Clemens trying to hang on the flank of Kiko Porto. This is for the lead in the GSX class, but right now Porto has him covered. Here comes some traffic in the form of Samantha Tan, I believe. That would be the next to take a look. Oh, this is a great crossover though. Clemens up the inside, and he's through to the lead.
That was beautiful. And again, the racecraft being shown by Stephen Clemens right now is exceptional. This is what professional racing is supposed to be about. Completely opposite of what he did last time by. And he drew Porto, there we go, drew Kiko Porto into the trap and closed it.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Great racecraft on display. Let's take a look at this again and how he set it up. You're right, he kind of sold him on one move from the lap before and then crossed back over, able to get to the inside here crucially with a sequence of left-hand corners, and was able to consolidate the move. Awesome stuff.
I think Samantha Tan being there in the GTDX car coming through also helped. And now more GTDX traffic coming through, but that was so well played. He played one hand the lap before, almost got it done, set it up to make it look like that's what he was doing again, and then kind of reversed it and got the job done. We said we felt like he had the quicker car over Porto, and indeed he did. Now that he's through, and with the help of some of the GTDX traffic coming through, he's built a nice gap in just a lap.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of gap he can pull, because even though he's been in traffic, you got the sense, and you said it, Brian, that this has been the fastest car in the class if he could just get to the front. Well, he's in the front now, and already he's got a lead of a 1.5 seconds. Some of that was traffic induced, but Brian, a lot of that is the outright speed. And trouble's not done yet for Kiko Porto, because Ian Porter now has reeled him in and is going to challenge for second before it's all said and done.
I'm going to let you keep talking about the battle between the 8 and the 68, because obviously I can't get it right. So yeah, you're exactly right though. For Porto, again, with a championship on the line, he's got to be smart. His teammate wants to move forward, and I think for Ian Porter, he played the good teammate role early and tried to keep Clemens off the back of the number 8. And then once Clemens is now through, it's like, hey bud, I did my part. He got through. I'm not going to sit back here and play bridesmaids. If I can get by you, I'm going to get by you, and I'm going to see if I can't take the fight to Stephen Clemens. But like you and I both said, I feel like that BSI Supra is really hooked up today in the hands of Stephen Clemens.
Really cool to see for the BSI team based down in Florida near Daytona. Shay Holbrook, former racer in her own right, part of the ownership group there, and just a really good little operation that continues to grow. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've really seen them branch out, and for them to jump into the GT4 waters like this and showcase their kind of strength up against the Rafa team, which is really the Smooch team kind of merged in with the Rafa guys from a year ago. That's an established GT4 team, so for BSI to be running with them in the same equipment showcases what that team's all about.
When you think about for Stephen Clemens, this team, you talked about it, new to GT4 racing, they had to learn their way, and perhaps that's why there were only 360 points garnered in the first couple of races. The performance on track was better than that, but they had some problems down at Daytona in the second round with finishing. Only 360 points scored there. For Kiko Porto, he scored 700 points there. So the idea that Clemens and this team have bounced back the way that they have has been impressive.
It has, and that run that they're on, that win at Mid-Ohio, that was a big statement, because it wasn't just a win. They had pole position. Stephen had the fastest lap of the race as well. That's a statement of intent, a statement of what they're capable of accomplishing. And you almost have to throw that, you wish you could just throw the results at Daytona out, because it was so fluky the way that they failed to finish the first race and didn't have any luck in the second race. 11th and 15th, the two results at Daytona, and you know, it happened on the worst possible weekend, because that was probably the deepest the field has been in terms of numbers all season long. A bad day today, and yeah, you finished down in 12th, but 15th and 12th, you know, I guess it's not quite as big of a difference in GSX as it is in some of the others, but still, of all the weekends to have a bad weekend with the field as big as it was in Daytona, that makes it all the more painful.
Absolutely. As you watch, Brian Thena's third in the P3 category, handily leads in the Bronze Championship. And in fact, I think he has it wrapped up. I haven't done the math on it. But it was interesting to watch him up through the S's the last time. The camera shot gave us a really good view of how dirty the track has gotten offline. And that's just the natural wear and tear with the right, left that you have around this racetrack. You're going to get a lot of this rubber down as you watch the cars up through the S's now. You could see all that clag to the outside, those rubber pieces. If you get out there, not only do they stick to the tires, but it's like rolling on marbles. Here's a look at Brian Thenis as he goes through turn 5. You can see some of the stuff to the outside, but further up the racetrack, up in turn 7, you can see it even more. And the problem is, I mean, look at all that offline, Ryan. If you get out there, that's one thing. This is in one of the slower sections of the racetrack. But when you get up to those climbing S's, where the rhythm side to side has to be there, if you get off just a little bit and you get into that debris, you're going for a ride, and you're going for a ride at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, so just a little mistake and not being quite as precise as you need to be makes a big difference, but also the multi-class nature rears its ugly head there from time to time when a faster car might put one of the slower class cars offline trying to make a pass to get through the traffic because they're in a battle of their own, and next thing you know, you end up out offline, which is not a great place to be ever at VIR, but especially this deep into the race when those marbles start to accumulate.
Yeah, you can see them right there, and it's one of the things that I think Randy Buck, who is the race director for VP Racing SportsCar Challenge, and all of the race directors in the IMSA paddock have really stressed this weekend after a kind of tumultuous weekend at Road America as far as contact and driver behavior went, was we're not going to put up with it. We're certainly not going to put up with it at a racetrack like this that will bite you if you get off the racetrack. And they were very, very stringent with calling, hey, guys, contact and not leaving racing room, it's just not going to happen. And I think, too, that's why we saw that respectful racing between Stephen Clemens and Kiko Porto. They knew that if they stepped out of bounds and started roughhousing a little bit, the penalty would be a lot worse having to come to pit lane than it would be just simply losing one position.
Sure, the message has been sent ahead of time, and clearly it's been received as well. Just an awesome battle between them. It went for a couple of laps there. Really, when all three cars were running together for the first 15, 20 minutes, it was pretty fantastic to watch the ebb and the flow between them. But that said, really, really good stuff there between Clemens and Porto, side by side for as many corners as they were, a couple of different laps. That's what you hope to see. And these are all drivers that want to be taking the next step, whether it's to Michelin Pilot Challenge or to the WeatherTech Championship. And these are the kind of habits that you hope get instilled here at this level that then carry over once you get to the top level.
Yeah, and you hope your PR person clips that video and makes sure that it's part of the reel that you're sending to other teams saying, this is what my driver can do. Right now, Valentino Catalano leads in the P3 category. He has had a magical season. Jake Walker, talk GTDX for a second. That championship, he had a long way to go, and he's making strides. The question is, when you look at it, Ryan, with 4 more races to go at the checkered flag today, is there time in GTDX to get it done? Not a large field there right now, and so even if Adam Adelson, who's leading the championship, finishes in 4th, he's still going to collect 280 points, and Walker collects 350 for the win. So you can only gain 70 at a time. Is it mathematically possible?
Oh, you're making me do math?
Well, yeah.
I think so. And it also kind of depends on how many cars show up when we get to Motul Petit Le Mans at the tail end of the year, too. That could add some jeopardy there if Walker continues to make inroads, and maybe then a bad day becomes particularly punishing for Adam Adelson. But quite frankly, he just hasn't had many bad days. I mean, he's only finished off the podium once all season. That was race 2 at Circuit of the Americas, where he finished 6th. So you look at the way his season is gone, the 3 wins, the 3 additional podiums, it's hard to see as a likely outcome that he has the kind of rough day that would open the door for Walker to recover from his disastrous Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, you used the word if a moment ago, and it's probably one of the most used words in racing. If this, if that won't out. That's why we race, to try to, you know, get past all the ifs. Go out and prove. Don't talk about ifs, but we talk about them all the time because there are so many things that could change right here as you look at Catalano trying to work past the third place car of Ian Porter in GSX. The two get together and 2 championships are affected right there. So anything can happen. Again, it's why we race, right? So for Jake Walker, he's going to keep doing what he does, and that, as of late, has been winning races. He's won 4 of the last 5, so he's having a great season, as is Valentino Catalano. And I think about Catalano coming into this season at Daytona and talking to him down there, and he goes, this is crazy. And I said, what? And he goes, it's so big. You know, I said, what was your thought when you came through the tunnel and underneath the super speedway in turn 4? And he said, my eyes were just wide open to see what this facility was like. And now to have the season that he's been having, really putting it together. And it's like you said, certainly not a stranger to success. He's got wins, 2 wins right now in Prototype Cup Germany this year, and 2 starts. In the 2 starts that he had earlier, currently 4th in the championship. And so he's won races on the worldwide stage. But as you said, I've won a championship in Europe. If I can win one in America and I can show people on both sides of the pond that I am a championship winning driver, you cannot take that away from me. Give me an opportunity to move forward. That's exactly what he's doing right now. And this Gephardt team showed up here in the US to run VP Racing SportsCar Challenge last year, and they were impressive from the get-go, just as they are in Europe.
Yeah, Valentino last year at those 2 races at Road Atlanta finished 3rd in both of them, but was right on the pace right away. And you can't underestimate the challenge for the team and driver to be learning a new championship, a new track all together. But when they turned up at Daytona this year, clearly they had done their homework. They were well prepared, had both cars running at the pointy end of those races. And as the season's gone on, there have been a few little hiccups here and there. Race 1 at Circuit of the Americas comes to mind, where both cars ran out of fuel within seconds of one another, but well before the end of the race. That was a strange one. But that has been the exception, certainly not the rule. They have been super quick. They have been really consistent. And for Catalano to come in and tackle a lot of these tracks for the first time and have the pace advantage that he's had at many of them as well, it's been super impressive, and I hope does open some eyes as to the kind of talent that he brings to the table.
Well, I believe the only track that he had seen, you mentioned it, was Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with the races that they ran last year. Every other track has been brand new to him, as Jake Walker aboard his Turner Motorsport BMW trying to do everything that he can to make up for that disastrous Daytona. And it shows you once again how you've got to score those points every weekend. 0 points in race 1 at Daytona because of a crash. They couldn't get the car, a practice crash. They couldn't get it into the race. And then effects of that crash lingered and affected race number 2 as well. After that, COTA, Mid-Ohio, and round 1 at CTMP, he's been stellar. We talked about 4 wins in 5 races. He's trying to make it 5 in 6. The team, that young driver, they have gelled.
No question. 6 straight poles as well in the class. They've been on pole for every race since Daytona. So how about that for atoning for some pre-race issues that he had down in Florida at the beginning of the season. But yeah, Walker's been awesome, and maybe he's a better illustration of my point, where he picked a bad weekend to have a bad weekend. Because, as you say, a bad weekend today and you finish 4th, you get 4th place points. Bad weekend there, and the one race he was able to start, finished 9th. And the points that you lose finishing 9th versus finishing 4th, I mean, you can almost look at that and say, you know, give him 4th place points from Daytona, and he's very much in the championship conversation. I can do that math, Brian. You can make the challenge to win a title with enough wins here at the tail end of this campaign.
But another good example of, you think of Turner Motorsport, who runs at all different levels. This VP Racing SportsCar Challenge has given them the opportunity to bring drivers along on their ladder system that they use throughout the different classes of IMSA competition. So another great opportunity here that Jake Walker's taking advantage of. And great run. Adam Adelson doing everything that he needs to do, though. You talked about it. Be on the podium every weekend. Don't worry about it. It's not how many races you win. It's how many points you score. And the championship trophy is bigger than all the race-winning trophies anyway. And that's what Adam Adelson is after. And they'll have one more lap here in race number 1 of the weekend. We talked about 3 races here. Remember, there is a race that was postponed from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We'll run that race on Sunday. And if you're wondering why Sunday and why not just get it out of the way here, well, it's one of those things that I think a lot of the teams looked at and said, well, wait a minute. If the competitors that were going to run at CTMP run that race here first, they will have had another 45 minutes of track time that we don't have, and that's going to give them an advantage. So let's all run our races that we're going to run here, and then we'll all have the same amount of track time, and then we'll run that delayed race on Sunday. Makes sense.
It does, and the reason that you have to factor that in is there are a few entries here for VIR that were not entered in Canada at CTMP, so that's where the discrepancy comes in. They're not eligible to start the race that is the makeup race at the tail end of the weekend. And I think pretty prudent to think about the fairness of it, and so we've got that to look forward to for many of these teams, but not all, to cap off the weekend.
Valentino Catalano down the back straightaway, that Duquesne chassis that he knows so well, once again paying big dividends through turn 14 and then down through the roller coaster one last time, and then down that long front straightaway, which, Ryan, by the way, is not straight, right? It's got that big bend in it just before the line where Valentino Catalano will see the checkered flag for the 5th time this year, flashing the lights as he works past some GT traffic. There it is, checkered flag. Valentino Catalano, 5 wins in 2025, and the championship picture gets a little bit clearer.
A fantastic season continues, one step closer to the title. How about this young man, though? Stephen Clemens, in what is effectively his home race, the South Carolinian, just over the border from North Carolina in Virginia, coming to see the checkered flag first for his 2nd win of the season. Clemens and BSI take race 1 at VIR.
What an impressive drive by Stephen Clemens. His racecraft today was absolutely spectacular. And for Jake Walker, Turner Motorsport, one more time down the front straightaway, the BMW M4. Jake Walker will claim yet another win in his march for redemption. Is there time left in this championship? Jake Walker doing everything he can to make sure it is as close as can be when we get to the final round of the season.
Well, keeping it interesting, making Adam Adelson work for it, that's for sure. Adelson 7 seconds behind, crosses the line with yet another podium finish. He has been metronomic this year, and a busy guy this weekend because he's got these 3 races. He's also racing in the WeatherTech Championship race on Sunday, so a lot of seat time for Adam Adelson.
Well, all I can say, Ryan, is if you can use words like metronomic, then you get to talk about Kiko Porto and Ian Porter tomorrow in the next race, because those two have my tongue tied up in knots, especially when they're running nose to tail.
And in identical paint schemes as well. I mean, not doing us any favors, but our friends Kiko and Ian, it's much easier that way. 2nd and 3rd today. Ian had pretty good pace, fell off late though, late in the going, and ends up in 3rd, but the best placed in the Bronze Cup subcategory in GSX. Didn't call his name before, but how about Tyler Hoffman on his debut? Finishes 4th, just off the podium, and it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 for Supras in GSX. Yeah,
quite a showing for that mark today. There's a look at the unofficial results. Valentino Catalano, we said, with the victory. Tell you what, hats off too for Alexander Christensen coming to the States, his first race here in the IMSA category in the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. First visit to VIR. Be interesting to see what he thinks about race number 1 on his resume here as you look through. Brian Thenis will round out the podium in the P3 category. Samantha Tan, great job to finish 3rd. She has been very, very impressive this year and very, very quick in that BMW. And then you see Stephen Clemens there in 10th with the win in GSX.
Yeah, as we talked about, great result for Steven. 2nd win of the season, and showing that the BSI team is right there on the pace here at VIR, at least with the Rafa Racing team. There's Tyler Hoffman, 4th in class. Justin DiBenedetto, another solid, quiet day. Chris Walsh had to start out back. They missed the false grid, didn't get there in time, and despite that was able to recover, comes through to finish just outside of the top 5.
Yeah, and I think about watching that race in GSX, and I think Stephen Clements not only had great racecraft, but I think you alluded to it, Ryan. I think the car on the long run, that Toyota Supra in the hands of Stephen Clements, just had better balance over the full 45 minutes. The great thing is we've got 2 more VP Racing SportsCar Challenge events to go. One more, quote, regular round from here at VIR, and then the delayed race from CTMP. That race, the starting grid, will be the way it would have been at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So that'll be interesting on Sunday as well. Great action today. Plenty more of it to come all throughout the weekend from one of the most picturesque racetracks in North America, VIR. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. So long.